Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria and I'm joined by my best friend and co-host Miyosha. And today we are starting a new season of Married at First Sight. So we're reviewing Married at First Sight season 17, episode 1, where we
Mhm.
meet everybody, especially if you didn't watch the matchmaking special. But before we get into these new couples, please make sure you are subscribed to our channel. Click the like button and meet us in the comments. Let us know what you think about these new cast members.
Mm.
All right. So let's start with Michael, who was supposedly left at the altar. I'm not buying it.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I don't. Well, okay, I do think the person pulled out, but even when they had him come down the aisle, it looked like the other side where her family would have been was completely empty.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
they did
feel,
keep showing the same side.
yeah, that's how I
Um,
feel. And anybody who they show that he's introducing himself to, I'm like, those are probably paid extras or something like that. I think they staged the whole, oh, he was left at the altar, like with not showing the person's face and having just a lady come down with a dress and a veil. Like, I think that whole thing was staged. I think maybe the person pulled out before then and they knew, but decided to make this the first time MAFS thing, and they decided to go through with it. That's my theory.
Not you, like me with Love is Blind.
Right. What did you say that there were plants? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there were
think they
show
staged
plants.
it. I think they staged it because I feel like now Married at First Sight, they're trying to do, oh, this is the most intense season ever. This is the most
Mhm.
this. And it's like, we don't even need all that. Like, just show us couples, and I feel like they're going to give us drama. You don't have to.
So, under your theory, even his family and friends thought they were still showing up to a real wedding?
No, I think they were aware. I feel like they were all in on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, seriously. I feel like because we didn't really see his parents, we just saw his friends around him. So I think, they were like, get your friends
Mhm.
together and we'll just shoot this since the person has pulled out. I just don't buy it.
It would be very risky though, because then, I mean, going forward, what will we really believe? I mean, with that many people, someone would talk or I don't know. But you're right. Why wouldn't they show her face? You hear her voice.
But it's not even her. Like I I feel like they got a
You
crew
refuse to
member.
believe this woman showed up, made it down the aisle, saw his face, and said it to his face like this not gonna work.
And if that did happen, what we saw wasn't it. It just seemed so fake.
You
I
know what it reminded me of?
what?
MTV Next. Next.
Yeah.
Y'all remember that show?
That was my show. Yeah. But I just think it was very staged, that whole thing. So either way, I do believe that his person pulled out. I just don't think it happened the way that we saw it.
Well, I'll say if it was real, that was cold-blooded, and it does not make sense that you would go through with everything, get dressed, have your family there. Why would you do that?
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
adding up. Y'all let us know in the comments. Do y'all think it was staged? It was production, playing games, it was a scheme? Mm,
It's the same. It was a scheme set up by Todd. It's the same production company as Love Is Blind. So I'm just like always
yeah.
very skeptical of them. But anyway, what did you think about Michael?
So I liked Michael. I
Mm,
could appreciate that he's aware that he's an acquired taste and that he's eclectic. Um, I mean, he was saying all the right things. I will say though that the crown and the sword, I think would be a bit much for a lot of people.
mhm.
Just because that's your first impression. So it's not to say that you can't express yourself, but I think because of this process, I don't know that I would have presented myself in the most eclectic version of me upon
Yeah.
first meeting. I do think you would have to tone it down a bit so that it's more fitting for the occasion
Yeah.
and the meeting type. Not to say that he could never pull it back out, because I think there are things about all of us where
Oh,
your
yeah.
partner may not see it upon first view, but it's like, oh, okay, once they get comfortable, it's like, oh, okay, it's fine. You know these little quirks about me and things that I
Yeah.
enjoy or whatever. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the crown and the sword. It's like, okay, pick one or the other.
But that's part of the reason why I feel like it was a reenactment at the very least of, whatever happened. But I
Mm.
felt the same way. I think it's really cool that he's unique and eclectic. I think, be yourself. That's what you're here for. I loved him talking about how what he's looking forward to the most is, when you're watching a scary movie
Mhm.
or trying new foods. I thought that was cute. So hopefully he gets a match that works out for him.
Yeah, so he didn't talk too much about, I guess, you know how they always say, like, well, why are you still single or what
Mhm.
hasn't worked out about your past? The only thing I wrote down is that he said something about maybe how in Denver he doesn't fit the typical
Mhm.
mold.
Mhm.
So I was kind of curious to hear about, he's 38. What's his previous dating history? Um, I will say the pace of the show, I enjoyed it. I like how we
Yeah.
just cut right to it. Thank you for not dragging this out with all the unnecessary scenes. So it was a breath
Mhm.
of fresh air to just jump right to it, even if it was fake.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
not complain too much.
And we already got a wedding. That's how it needs to be.
Get to the point. So yeah, I appreciated the pace of it, but yeah, one thing I wrote down is that he didn't talk too much about his previous dating history or relationships or
Mhm.
anything. So
You know another thing they were doing really fast? Moving the names off the screen. Like by
I
the
know
by the time I could write down the person's name and look back up to see their
it's
age,
gone.
it was gone. I'm like, dang, they like, since y'all have so much to say, everything's moving fast.
Literally every time I tried to write down their name, age, and what they did for a
Occupation.
living, I had to pause it and go back 15 seconds.
Yes,
Yes, but
exactly.
but we're
Okay.
not gonna complain too much.
Okay. Listen, that is not a complaint. Keep the pace the same. We'll rewind if we miss something. Okay. So then we go to Emily and Brennan. Emily is 29, Brennan is 28. So let's start with Emily. Emily, what were your thoughts about her?
So my thoughts on Emily is I wanna hear more about how this is, like, her first serious relationship. She says she's only gone out on dates.
Mhm.
She's been brushed off or ghosted
Yeah.
every single time. I need more information on this girl's dating history. I need
Yeah.
more specifics because I don't know. She's a beautiful woman,
Mhm.
and I'm just very surprised that she's gotten to this point and she hasn't had a boyfriend of a few months.
And that's the thing. I feel like she's probably had relationships, but you know how people feel like, oh, well, if there wasn't like a title, then this wasn't a relationship which you were still relating with the person. So
Mhm.
I would like to know more. But I think she was just saying, like, someone who maybe there was like love and a future that they saw with each other before. So I think maybe that's
Mhm.
what she means by a serious relationship. But I could kind of see it.
She is a lot. She
she's
presents as a lot,
she has a lot of personality.
which
Uh,
I think for her, what she does for a living sounds like she works in sales in the tech industry.
oh,
Great for that.
yeah.
Bubbly personality, charismatic, outgoing, life of the party. I think her independently, I'm okay with that. It's just I think you have to find the right match.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you okay, I'll give my thoughts on her and then I want to know if you feel like they found her the right match. But
Okay.
I put down that I hope that she knows how to be in a relationship because
Mm.
I'm very hesitant with her. Before I knew who they paired her with, I was like, she either has a chance to lose herself completely in a relationship because she's never had to be in one before. And so she might just like go along with whatever happens. Or she might go the other extreme, which is, I don't want to change anything about me for the sake of a partner. And so I don't know. I think she might struggle to find that balance. Now that I know a little bit more about her and who they paired her with, I have a whole new list of concerns, but that was just based off of meeting her by herself. How did you feel
Yeah.
about her friends and
So I'm glad you brought up like, does she know how to be in relationship? Because her maid of honor, was it Lily?
Lily came
Out the gate
firing
swinging.
shots.
And so I was that whole time I was torn between you want friends who are going to keep it a buck with you, and not just be a yes friend
Yeah.
or whatever, but you have to have some type of tact in your delivery, I think needs to be on point. And I
Yeah.
would even go as far as to say these are things you maybe even share off camera. I would feel a way if Samaria as my best friend read me like that with cameras there. This would need to be a one-on-one in person. We got some hot chocolate in front of us. You know,
I like how
hey
you
girl,
made it weather appropriate hot chocolate because it's fall. I see what you did there.
I'm setting the vibe. We're having a cozy one-on-one and you're keeping it a buck, but in love. And so I didn't appreciate the delivery, the fact that it was on camera and the frequency of it. It's like, okay, you
Girl.
said it, but now we're here, wedding shopping. Even the impatience for the wedding. See, this is why I took my mama wedding dress shopping with me, because y'all
There's
not about to be rushing me.
listen. And then for her to be like, I don't want to talk ish about Emily, but I would never stand in front of the camera. Yes, she's ready. I can't wait to get her down that aisle. Behind the camera, okay, now
We
you ain't
know
never had no
you.
relationship. Come on, girl, let's be for real as a friend. But for this to air on freaking Lifetime, I
What did
would
she say?
never.
Like she's self-absorbed, she's selfish, she has concerns about if she can actually give.
Concern, yeah, like center other people.
Yeah, so it's all about her. And who knows, maybe that is how she carries herself in the friendship.
Yeah,
And but then why are y'all still so close? I mean, look, it's none of my business. But
exactly. And so I was just like, I can't believe that a friend would do that. And they just kept at it. Lily calmed down a little bit, and then the other one picked up the torch, Mackenzie. But we'll get into that later. How did
and
you
the
feel?
sister was there too. So that was another thing
Yeah,
where I'm like, y'all ain't gonna get her to I like,
get
okay
her
now.
together. Exactly, exactly. How
Yeah.
did you feel about Brennan?
So for me, what did he say? He's from New York. He speaks his mind. The New York comes out of him, I
He's
guess, when
already
he
letting us
feels
know. Mhm.
slighted, as if where you're from is an excuse to act a certain way. Uh, but yeah, so I really wasn't feeling that. His energy is very intense, given that I think he described himself as like, oh, I like to have fun, I'm this, I'm that. But the way that he was describing himself wasn't matching the energy. I said, I'll give him a pass. I feel like maybe he was more serious or more reserved.
Okay.
Um, because this is like the first episode. I don't know. I just he was intense for me.
He was intense. And I felt like the whole I'm a New Yorker thing, like to start off with that, I already am like, okay, this is not somebody who I would want to be around. But Nicole from last season kind of had that same vibe and she turned out okay. So,
But I think the difference was when Nicole would communicate it, it was like more bubbly. With
and I think she
him,
knew it was an issue.
it, she knew it was an issue, but with him, it's like, oh no, he's serious.
That's
Like,
how I am.
just take it or leave it. So
Like people who rep their zodiac signs, which nothing against that, but they'll be like, "Oh, I'm a Capricorn, I can't help it," and it's like, okay, maybe you can't help it sometimes, please, for a friend. But
yeah.
yeah, I felt the same way. One of the things that stuck out to me about what he said that I felt like might clash with Emily, he
Hmm.
said that his parents were toxic, they did not communicate well. He said all these negative things about their marriage. And then at the end, he said, but I still admire them because they stuck through it and they're still married 30 years. And so I wonder how that is going to work with Emily, who spoke of her family as, my parents have a beautiful marriage, something that maybe she
Hmm.
aspires to. And I wonder if he expects marriage to look like what his parents' marriage looked like. So he might be expecting her to put up with things that she's probably going to feel like my parents never had to go through that. I'm not about to put up with it. So I worry about his expectations of what a marriage looks like based on what he's seen.
That and this whole theme of like, oh, you get married once you're in, you're not out. It was said several times by him, reiterated by his father. And so I don't know. I think his intentions are good in that, at least initially, in that,
Mhm.
like, hey, I'm not playing around with this. Once I'm in, I plan to be in.
Yes.
But I think the flip side is, okay, well, are you willing to do the work so that it's a pleasant experience? Would you be okay
Mhm.
if, yeah, we're married, but we're miserable? But it should be of inspiration because we're still married.
Mhm.
So will he really be willing to do the work to make her happy, make sure it's a happy union, or do you just want to brag 40 years later?
Exactly, and that's what I'm concerned about.
And for him to say the bar was set high, I'm sorry. He said the bar, I mean, all of our parents argue, but I feel like he made it a point to say it was toxic, it was doing too much,
He did make it a point to say that.
but then the bar was set high. Excuse me?
So, I just coming off of Love is Blind, that's some of the stuff that Uche was saying about, "Oh, my parents went through all these struggles." Okay, the girls nowadays, we're not trying to
And
struggle like that.
and that's the thing, women of our generation are like, "Oh, no, like, it's okay if we don't wanna suffer through." The older generation, things were different. We
Mhm.
don't feel, "Okay, you're a divorcee, and?" You move
Right,
on.
okay.
You can get married again or not.
Like,
So,
saying you're a
that
divorcee
shaming is
doesn't.
not gonna work on us.
Exactly, and I love that for us.
Mhm.
Not to say that people should just jump out of marriage, because I know there's somebody
No.
out there that's gonna be like, "Oh, people don't commit these days." Yeah, but people wanna commit to good things, not people who are
Mm-mm.
mistreating them. Anyway, Pastor Cal says they're a wonderful match because they're both ambitious and successful and social, and that he feels like they're confident she's ready to be a loving and supportive partner. I'm just like, we don't even have instances of her being an unloving and unsupportive partner. So how are we so
How do you
confident about this? I don't.
that and I mean, on the surface of what we saw, what about Brennan's energy do you feel like will really click with her? Like, I'm not saying that you have to be so alike,
Mhm.
but she really is life of the party.
Yes.
And there's a seriousness about him.
Yeah.
And when I saw his dad, I'm like, okay, I see where it comes from,
I felt
which is
bad
not
with
a
him.
bad thing. I just think
Yeah.
that might clash.
With her. He'll have to warm up. And I see what they're trying to do. They think she'll warm him up. But how you know this 28-year-old man wants to be warmed up to being to a bubbly person? Like, you don't know.
He
That's
might
like
be fine
saying.
just the way he is.
Right. That's like saying, oh, Samira's a homebody. Let's put her with someone who wants to go out all the time. I'm telling you right now, that will always clash with me. Don't give me nobody who's the opposite in that. Okay. Like, sometimes opposites attract, sometimes they do not. So
What did you think about, and I'm jumping ahead just a little bit,
okay.
but since we're talking about the parents,
Okay.
what did you think about him saying, his concern as far as his parents being Russian and him being paired with, I guess, a regular American white person?
Oh, I thought it was just the dad who was Russian. I didn't realize that the mom was too.
Well, either way, he
Yeah.
quoted as, "Hey, my parents are from X place, or
Russia.
this is our
Yeah.
culture." I don't know if he would have said it if his mom was not from Russia, because it's like, okay, well, your dad married a
Right.
person who's
Oh,
regular
yeah.
American.
So I don't know much about the Russian community, but I can understand the whole, okay, this is someone from a different culture, so they might not find our cultural norms as norms. It might be
Mhm.
someone who would have to, those things might have to grow on. So I could definitely see that. But the thing that bothers me about him, if you know that and you
Why are you
know
here?
that it has to be one and done, why this show that has probably like a less than 20% rate from 17 seasons? Why would this be the way that you would go?
And realistically, I mean, you know your family. So I'd hope that they're flexible and open. The fact that you even signed up for this, but why would you even want your future spouse
To
to,
go through.
and on top of that, it's the married at first sight process. I
Ugh.
never understand it. And it was kind of odd to me too, because it's like, well, y'all live in America, and New York is a melting pot,
Hmm.
literally everyone. So I get people want people from certain backgrounds, and that's fine, but that's not this process.
At
And
all.
definitely if you living in Denver. So
And definitely if you were Ryan and Lauren. No, I'm just saying. So how did you feel about, so Orion is 27, Lauren is 31. So that is probably the biggest age gap that we have so far this season, I think. And it's the men
mhm.
being younger. What do you think about them individually and as a couple?
Orion, another eclectic one.
He is eclectic.
Which is fine. He taps into his masculine, his feminine, all
Mhm.
that's fine and great. Even before he said it, I did get a bit of feminine energy from him.
Oh,
I think
interesting.
it was in one of his confessional scenes. So when he said it, I was like, oh, okay, I see
I
it.
can see it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really all I had on him. The age gap,
Uh-huh.
I didn't think too much of it,
Hmm.
just because if no one told me he was 27, I don't know if I would have guessed it. It's not like the age difference looks
Right.
that apparent. So yeah.
I think,
27, I feel like between 27, 28, and 32.
hmm,
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
ideally not maybe with the guy being younger, but I see that as the age range when people start getting married.
So I think it's wonderful to see Native American representation. I don't think we've seen that on any of the seasons I've watched. So you guys can
Mm,
let me know, but I think that he is the first Native American on this
okay.
show. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. So I loved that we got to see him a little bit, very little of his
Hmm.
culture, but got to see his family and things like that. So I'm excited just that he's here. No matter what
Hmm.
happens, I'm glad to see him on this show. So he talked about going on a date with a man before and then realizing, okay, so I'm not gay because there was a surprise kiss that he just did not enjoy. And so I was like, okay, so this is interesting. I want to see who they're going to pair him up with. And
Hmm.
then we meet Lauren, who is queer, she considers herself. And so I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, maybe there's something that could work here, but my concern is that she says for what she's looking for next, she wants the masculine. Like she kept on saying something about strong man, strong this. So while I think she will be accepting of him and I can see them hitting it off, I also wonder if with him, showing both the masculine and the feminine
Mhm.
qualities, how that'll work since she's very like, oh, me and my mom saw me with a strong man for a match,
Mhm.
you
Like,
know?
how much is he willing to lean into that with her?
But he also is an electrician, which I think is a very masculine job. I don't know. That's just me.
Mhm.
Like when you say electrician, I automatically think masculine. So that
It's
could come
true,
into
yeah.
play. Yeah. So that's what with them, I'm interested to see how this is gonna go. I'm invested in this.
So I'm torn on this. A big part of me feels like it'll work,
Yeah.
just because I see both of them having this eclectic side. They're not
Yeah.
cookie cutter going into boxes or the norms. And I think
Hmm.
that I could see them both appreciating that aspect of each other and not expecting each other to fit into a box. Um, but I have concerns for different sides. So Orion, I don't know if he mentioned that he would be open to whatever background other than him wanting to
Mm.
share his cultural background. So that
Okay.
was a little mini red flag. Like, how open is he
To a
to
black
being with
woman.
someone else
Yeah.
of a different background? And then for her, she says that she is open,
Mhm.
but it does sound like she is desiring black love. Like that would be her first preference. So I do wonder, how open is she really? Like when they met with the friends, they were like, "Girl, what if he's white?"
I,
They're just like,
okay.
"Oh, what if this? What
Yeah.
if that?" But then I forget the person's name, was like, "Oh, but you'll be fine. Like you're down for it." So I was just like, is she really down or is she down?
Yeah, so they were saying the friends and maybe family, they're like, oh, well, if it's another minority, it's half the struggle. And I this is just my opinion. I wouldn't say with any other minority that's half the struggle, but I think specifically him being Native American, I think there might be some understanding there of her people's struggle for and his people's
Mm,
struggles. Yeah, I put specific because I there are other minorities who I don't necessarily think it's half the struggle. Like, oh, they'll see where you're coming
mhm.
from. But specifically with Native American, I feel like maybe that'll be something they could connect over, considering the histories that exist here. But of course, you never know. So that
And
was just
I'm of the mindset that regardless of the background, I mean, people can belong to a certain group, but not
yeah.
fully identify or, see themselves as a part of whatever.
Mhm.
So it's a toss up.
I'm very invested.
You just never know until you start digging and get to hear
Yeah.
their viewpoints and their own specific life experiences, even if it
Mhm.
was another Black person. So,
That's very true. I put why were we seeing her naked? Like that whole scene of her on the bed in the
oh
bikini or something. I was just
yeah,
like, okay, I guess, but
yeah.
I could have done without that. Like, I don't know. But she is Miss Young, Wild, Free, and Certified Lover Girl. So maybe, that was how she wanted to be presented. But I was like, she's the only one who we're seeing like that in previous seasons. I don't remember them showing. I don't know. It was something that
Yeah.
made me,
What did she say? Oh, she's blackity black black. She's
yeah, she is.
proud to be a Black woman. Love to hear it.
And
Yeah, I don't know. I could see this working out really well, even if it's not an initial attraction. But
mm,
then I could also see where it's just one of those things where it's like people say that they're more open than what they actually are.
especially, so she seems like a tall lady, and
Hmm.
he might be shorter than her. So I wonder if that's going to come into play. Like if she's okay with dating someone shorter, if he's okay with dating someone taller. You never know. I think it was his mom who was sitting on the couch, and I
Hmm.
put she is stunning. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to put that out there. Orion's mom, you are so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's all I have on them for
Yeah,
that.
it was super emotional hearing that her mom recently passed within filming of this, and something that I wrote down is, I just hope she's okay when this is all said and done, no matter what way it goes, just
Yeah,
because that's a traumatic experience, and then you're jumping into a very fickle process,
yeah.
and so, we saw her break down a few times, and like
Mm,
many of us, we envision having these big moments and our mom being there,
yeah.
and that was tough to
That was
watch.
heartbroken. Yeah, it was heartbreaking, especially when she went to try on dresses. I was just like, "Oh Lord."
Yeah, it was a lot. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay. Austin and Becca. This was the funniest family interaction to me. His mom
Ooh,
was
go
not playing. Her lips
Austin.
were tight. She was not playing about this process. And she wasn't playing before she even knew that he was selected. So when she found out he was selected, she was like, "Oh, you were? Huh."
Mm.
Like it was even worse after she found out. But his mom is cautious and worrisome. And
Mm.
his dad says something like, "Well, chances are it's not gonna work. But who
Yeah.
knows, it might." I was like, okay,
He
dad.
the dad was trying to give him a glimmer of support,
Yeah.
given the energy his mom was. Whew, what did he say? Like, "Oh, this could have been a phone conversation." Listen, if she was coming at me with that kind of energy, hey girl,
She was very
listen.
strict. But something she said, like she felt like he wasn't ready and that it's more challenging than he thinks it is. And for those of us who go into marriages, I feel like that's true. I think it's always going to be more challenging than you think it is. So I can understand that advice. But either way, she was extremely strict and she let him know whether you have chemistry. She's like, either you have chemistry or not. Like she doesn't think that it can be built. She said, there's no chance. If you have chemistry, great. If you don't have it. You can't build it. But yeah, she wasn't even trying to hide her disapproval.
I do wonder what the parents' dynamic was like. She said, "Oh, it's harder than what you think." I wonder if they hid a lot of their challenges, and
Mm,
that's why he just may that's why she thinks that he's not prepared and understanding what a marriage really takes.
Yeah.
At the same time, how will he know? How will he learn?
Tell him.
He'll
Yeah.
he'll never be fully prepared because it'll be a new experience with whoever his wife is going to be. So
Hmm.
I heard what the mom was saying. She was just not here for it.
At all. But
Mm,
I liked the person who they paired him up with, Becca.
mm,
I think she seems very fun, and I feel like her profession matches what we've seen of her. So like a wedding photographer, I think she is.
mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, I could see that for her personality for sure. Uh yeah, what did you think of her?
So I liked her. I mean, she said so she was I feel like she gave off fun, quirky vibes,
Yes.
but I think fun up until a point because they both had similar reactions
At
with
the
the whole
batch party.
bachelorette and all that.
Hmm.
So we'll get to that later. I wrote down that I feel like they're an overall good match. Um, I did write down too that she has this autoimmune disease going
Yeah.
on. She recently had a surgery, finds out that she has endometriosis. She has chronic pain. And so I wanted to ask you, what do you think about, because I don't know if they've shown a person dealing with a health illness, especially I think because most people are young in this process. So
Mhm.
maybe the likelihood is lower. But what do you think about a person dealing with these types of issues and then going through a process like this? Not marriage in general, like the real world, but
Married at first sight.
a married at first sight. Yeah.
Twitter was talking about this because some people were like,
Mm,
I if I were Austin, I would not want to have somebody who has these struggles that they're facing already. And so they were like,
mm,
they don't think that she should have been cast. I didn't feel that way. I understand what they're saying
mhm,
because there's so much unknown with this process already that
mhm,
if it's something like that, especially with her saying that she doesn't want to be a burden, I'm hoping that this process isn't setting her up to be seen in that way. So I'm mostly concerned for her and how her partner receives her, but I think it's for him to decide. Like, they live together for 2 months and then he does not have to
mhm,
continue this process. He can get a divorce. um so yeah, I get it,
mhm,
but also I think it's very like maybe ableist a little bit to be like, oh, they
mhm.
should only cast people who don't have any health, whatever.
To take that element off the
Yeah.
table. Yeah, because in a normal situation, you'd have time to build a foundation, you'd grow
Mm,
together. Because even with couples who've been married for a long time, when they have to deal with bouts of illness, it's what
hard.
I've observed still very difficult, even for a child caring for a parent who maybe has like gotten sick before anticipated,
Yeah.
as they get into their elder years. So I don't know. I feel like the right person, it wouldn't matter if it's the right fit, you
Yeah.
know? But it's a risk on both of their sides, meaning for her, as you said, she could be all in on this process. And because it's something that she can't control, she might be set up for disappointment.
Exactly.
Like people thinking like, oh yeah, I'm all in, I'm a help. And then they realize because maybe they've never been a caregiver that they're in over their head and then they're
Yeah.
out. And then on his side, he may be thinking, do I want to care this at such a young age, be a caregiver, as well as, the endometriosis piece of, okay, fertility
How
and
does that
just
impact?
like,
Hmm.
what does this lead to? And you're just meeting the person.
Yeah.
But
It's a
I,
lot. So I
but I
understand.
also feel like it's a representation of real life because millions of people are walking around in the dating world and we're not robots, our bodies malfunction or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think it's a real world scenario. It
Yeah.
may showcase how do people with illnesses and diseases navigate
Dating.
dating and marriage and all that.
Yeah,
So,
she's just so delightful that I just don't want her to be the guinea pig for them showing it. But I don't know that I think they should have removed her from casting. Like, she
Yeah.
knew what it was and she decided to come on. So I'm glad that she's on the show, you know?
And she's a wedding photographer. I also wonder, like, I wonder if production played up, like she did say, "Hey, I'm in pain," or "I have these things going on," but it sounds like she's also able-bodied as well,
Yeah,
so as the season goes on, we may find out the severity,
of it.
even in her choosing to be filmed.
Hmm.
She probably assessed the risk herself to see, like, hey, am I even up for
Up
this?
to it.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then we have Claire and Cameron.
I
So
barely have anything on these two.
okay, I don't. Where's is Cameron Irish? I don't.
I
I
thought I heard Australia.
oh, I'm so bad with
Yeah,
accent. If it's not an
I
African
don't know.
accent, I am so
It's not an
so
African.
terrible. Like I am. But I'm concerned because he
Mhm.
doesn't have any family in Colorado. And I
Mm,
want to know more about him. Is he here permanently? How long has he been in Colorado? Will his wife get to meet the family?
mm.
Because I can see where it's like, okay, so he gets to meet all of my family. I don't get to know any of his family. How comfortable am I with marrying into a family that I have not met at all? Also, what things can the family tell me about this person who I'm gonna marry that I might not know? So I don't know how I feel about him being on the season.
Really? I
Mhm.
mean, it sounds like he's established some godparents. I
Okay.
mean, so you feel he's flighty or what? You just
I
feel like
just
we didn't see enough.
I didn't see enough, and if I were Claire and I didn't get to meet the family of the person who was in on this process, or the friends, because he said his family and his friends aren't there, I would just feel like
Do you
your
know?
family and your
Can you really
friends,
know this guy?
yeah, they provide so much insight into who you are as a person. Like someone could meet Neosha and
Mhm.
know a lot of about me because she's my like best friend, and we carry ourselves kind of similarly. But
Mhm.
I feel like you get to know someone better through the people who they're around. And so
Yeah.
I would, if I were Claire, I would feel a little, I would feel some type of way, but I'm not her. So maybe,
So initially, I didn't think too deep into that.
okay.
Yeah, that wasn't my first reaction. I'm like, okay, he has godparents here. I don't know how realistic it is that they would fly over. I don't know, what their situation is. So I think what you're saying is, why even pick him for this process, because we can't really validate this guy. We can't have the checks and balances,
I would
right?
need, yeah, Pastor Cal would need to show up in Ireland or Australia, whichever. He would need to have them have a filming crew follow him to meet Cameron's people,
Mhm.
because the godparents, it struck me as though they were like adult godparents. Like if I were to go out
Yeah.
and meet a couple now and they're really cool, and I'm like, oh, y'all could be my godparents, like that. That's what they
Yeah.
struck me as. So
I could see that now that you say it. One thing that the godparents did say was that he was picky.
they did say that. You
So I
know,
hmm.
this reminds me a little bit of Matt from the North Carolina season. You remember the tall,
Mm.
tall Matt, and his people
Oh,
didn't show up to the
yeah.
wedding, and he was just like not fully invested in the
Mhm.
process.
Kinda flighty. He's like, "Oh, I just moved here from over playing basketball overseas," and we saw the shenanigans he was up to.
So
I
I'm not,
just would hope that's not Cameron. He's what, 32? So this is a big age gap too, 27 to 32. What,
yeah,
5 years?
yes.
Mm,
So
um,
that is, but again, because the guy is older, maybe it doesn't strike me as much as the Lauren and Orion
mhm.
one, but that could be my own like ideas that I have about age, you know.
So something else that I wrote down, and I mean, I'm all for entrepreneurship and everything, but I feel like Married at First Sight always has a person, whether it's Married at First Sight, Love is Blind, whatever show you want to pick, where
Yeah.
their finances are not solid. The rest of them, I'm like, okay, these seem to be normal jobs that people show up to, have salaries. He's the
Mhm.
only one I think that's an entrepreneur. He's a bicycle shop owner. And
Yeah.
so I just wrote, I'm like, okay, I hope the status of whatever his business is like on the up and up, because they always sneak one in where it's just something.
What
I
was his
hope he's
name? Matt?
prosperous. I hope it's going well. But
Yeah,
of all the people, if it were to be someone, it may be him, especially since we didn't see.
much of him.
Yeah. So,
So Claire, another sad story here. So we have like this season gonna have me crying between
wow.
Lauren and Claire. So she's a quadruplet. And I heard that Emily was also a twin. I think she said that on the after party. Emily has a twin.
What?
Yeah. So Claire is a
Wow.
quadruplet, but her brother unalived himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was really sad. She talked about it as what led her to become a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought that was just a sad story.
Did you get a sense of anything else about her?
Besides her having two sisters, and a really cute way, I guess, of telling her family that she was getting
Mhm.
married. Do you think they knew already?
I think they knew. They were way
Yeah,
too supportive.
because when
The way
she
they
was
jumped up.
walking,
Oh, congratulations.
right, they were like walking down the aisle. How did you get that from that clue?
Look, you know whose people didn't know? What's her name? Emily. The way that one of the friends looked like, huh? What? I think I wrote down what she said. Her response was natural.
I, yeah, I think they're used to Emily being the irresponsible friend who they're like, well, we'll talk about it later. But
Okay.
yes, so now I didn't really get much of a sense of Claire, except for the story she told about her
Mhm.
brother and that she wants someone who is goofy and doesn't take life too seriously, who's empathetic, kind, and warm. So the way that she described the partner she wants, I felt like, okay, this person knows exactly what it is that she wants, not just in a, oh, he has to have a nice career, he has to have this, but she knows like the actual person,
Mhm.
who she wants to be with every single day and what their characteristics are. So I feel like she's given a lot of thought into this. Yeah, and she says
Yeah.
she's hardworking. So hopefully, him being a business owner, he's also hardworking and
Mhm.
ambitious and a self starter and all that stuff. I don't know. I didn't get much about them. So
Same. Yeah, not much there. Not for me to say one way versus the other.
yeah.
Oh, I
Okay.
will say another thing. Didn't hear much about their dating past or anything, which may be a good thing. It helped it to go along a little bit faster, but it just feels like we don't really know them.
Okay.
So,
Fair.
okay.
All right. So they went dress shopping
Girl.
and her friends just kept on pressuring her. So not even about, she said, oh, I'm like indecisive or I'm feeling hot. Every time she said, oh, I'm feeling hot or I'm feeling nervous, like, oh, is it because you're getting married in a week to a stranger who you don't know? Like, calm down. I'm just hot. Like, they need to turn the AC on. That's it. But they kept
Girl.
wanting her to like say that she was nervous or, and that's why I'm like, they find her to be the irresponsible friend, and I feel like they all are treating her as if, okay, this is gonna fail, and they want it to fail so that she can learn her lesson. That's the sense that I got from her friend
Mm.
group, that they're not here for this process and they're kind of not here for her a little bit.
I mean, the way she literally showed her ass, not justifying the way that they're handling her dress shopping. That's just wrong. But there could be some frustration there of like, you just be doing too much.
Yeah.
And you got us out here on national television and we're gonna give it to you. But I still, if it were my sister and I observed this, I would say something.
Hmm. Yeah,
You're not
I
gonna
just
talk
didn't
about
like the
sister.
pressure. Like, okay, so, and I feel like that plays into why she didn't want to say I'm nervous, because it's like, y'all are expecting me to be that. Y'all, how someone's
Mm.
expecting you to fail and you're like, oh, I have to prove them wrong. Like, that's how I felt with this whole
Well,
situation with her friends.
I think it was the Lily lady. She said she comes across as tough, but she's really not.
Mhm.
So I think they perceive her as having this armor on. But if you
Mhm.
have friends like that, wouldn't you need it?
Baby, I'm going to battle every day. Y'all going to brunch, I'm coming with my sword and my shield because with friends like this, who needs enemies?
Yeah, it's giving op energy big
It
time.
very much so. I want to know what their backgrounds are. Like, are they married? They seem just more put together, or presented themselves as more put together. Maybe.
So something that Emily said, I think it was dress shopping, I'm not sure,
Okay.
but she said she's just ready for fun. She said it a few times.
It's like, girl, you know you're getting married, right? I mean, not
If
that
you
marriages aren't fun, but they also take effort.
if you wanted fun, go on a date to Six Flags. It just it felt it was giving me like, oh well, this is something to do.
Yeah.
If it works, it works. If
Mm,
not, it don't.
hmm.
That's what I was getting.
I don't know.
And maybe her friends sense that too, like, you
Yeah.
really on here playing games.
Yeah. The other person who went dress shopping was Lauren. We touched on that a little bit,
Mhm.
so we don't have to say too much about it. Um,
Oh,
what
Emily's dress, the complete opposite of what she described.
was it? I thought she said that she wanted something like,
She said fun, flirty, something that shows my personality. She picked a very simple dress to me.
she did pick a very simple dress, but then she said something about, since it's her first time meeting him, that
Oh,
she
that's
didn't
why
want to
she went
be.
with that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
But
I
she's
didn't
gotten a
catch
few
that part.
dresses before she even came out. Like, she was very indecisive about her dress,
Mm,
which honestly, with her type of friends, I would want to be sure before coming out there, because I'm not about to come here and y'all light me up and roast me. So,
Okay.
bachelorette and bachelor parties.
Yeah.
Emily was
Oh,
when she said she was a partier. She definitely is. Uh, Michael, is Michael ready to get married? I don't know.
Married at first sight, I have one more request. Please stop zooming in on these bachelorette and bachelor scenes. We're good. We're good.
We didn't
What was
ask
he
to be at
Wait,
the
wait,
strip club.
Cameron was like leaning back. The lady's butt was in his face. We know what happens at these things, but I don't care to see this
At
on
all.
TV.
Yeah.
Uh,
Michael was interesting. Austin, Austin and Becca. So I think both of them were like, "Oh yeah, like I support sex workers, but I'm not really into the whole stripping thing." So I'm like, okay, maybe they can bond over that. Like, when they talk about the bachelor and bachelorette parties, maybe they can both be like, "Yeah, I wasn't really here for it. I support them, but I don't want to be a part of that." So I thought that
um,
was really neat that even before meeting, they have that in common.
I thought, what's his name?
All
Who you
right.
just No, not Orion, Austin. I
Mhm.
was thinking he probably just held it together. Not that he would be interested, but mainly because his mama would be watching.
Ah!
His mom was like, you better not embarrass me.
That is, you already going on these people's show. That's hilarious. I didn't even think about her then.
Hmm.
Oh man. Okay, so or they have this conversation about Orion having a girth certificate. I could have done without that, but Michael was like, "You have been a pleasant surprise." So it'll be interesting to see how that friendship develops between Michael and Orion.
You know what's gonna be interesting to see if
Mhm.
Lauren can vouch for what was said.
That's true, but also, but also, she said something about how not wanting anything that was too big, or something like that. She's like, I've had
Yeah.
enough of this particular size to know that that's not what I'm looking for. So, do
Why
they tell
even
the
come?
experts
Okay.
that? I don't
And
know.
how do the experts even check? Whatever.
Well, Dr. Pia is on full time
Oh
now.
yeah, yeah,
She's
yeah. That's true. I was
yeah,
gonna say, how do they check for that? Because people can say whatever. I mean, we heard what was the
Justin,
old boy from, was it two
Justin,
seasons ago? Him? Yeah.
Justin,
All what he had to say,
Tree. Yeah.
lies.
Yikes. That's so embarrassing. Like, why would you lie?
But why even say it? So no one asked you. You offered up that information
Nobody
freely.
has to know. Okay. So the wedding, Emily's friends, Emily's friends want her to be stressed
Wait,
real bad.
the
What?
the Bachelorette with Emily. I
Uh-huh.
briefly talked about it earlier, but I wrote the way she was acting at that bachelorette is, I think, something that what's his name, Brennan, would really feel a way about.
Oh yeah. I
Nothing
think so.
about him gives I'm down for the cheeks out at the bar.
Hmm.
Maybe to drink and have a good time, but not to where we gotta blur you out.
What was he doing at the bachelor party? Because I feel like they didn't focus on him much.
He was there not being overly sensitive, but not overly participating. So
Okay.
he was there, but nothing about him gives what Michael was giving
Okay.
to where he would be like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fair.
Especially his dad and his parents will be watching this back.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even think they're gonna watch it. They barely went to be at the wedding, but so they get married. Emily's friends wanted her to be stressed, and then later on she starts to get stressed walking outside in that gown in the snow. I was like, that could never be me. If there's snow
Mm-mm.
on the ground, I'm somewhere with 50 layers on me. But she must have been really hot. Um, yeah, I don't know. I didn't really have much on before that we haven't touched on already. Brennan's family being
Um,
pressure, like putting pressure on him.
yeah, so I did say that they both seemed to be pleased, like what they saw physically. Like no one
Hmm.
seemed like, oh, you know, you don't think so?
No,
Not
so
that
I
they
think
thought, oh, you're the best or whatever, but it wasn't like a ill type of
no, it
reaction.
wasn't. And I saw Brennan smile when he saw like a glimpse of her. So like when she walked in at first,
Mm-hmm.
I saw him smile. Uh okay, so Brennan's parents said everyone in our family only had one wedding, so let's keep it that way.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the mom was like finishing the dad's sentence with that one. So I think it's a sentiment that she shares, even though she was trying to be more supportive than the dad was for sure. But it seems like they're both agreed that one and done, one wedding, that's it.
This is how you chose to do it?
Yeah. Well,
Live with your
this
decisions.
this is how you wanted to take your turn. Okay, I hope it's worth it. But yeah, he seems pleased with her, and I think she seemed pleased with. They're both,
Mhm.
I think, good enough looking people that
I think they would make a nice looking couple. Yeah.
yeah, they do. So
Yeah. Yeah, I was
he's
saying that earlier because I don't know if attraction will be
a
a
huge
huge issue.
issue for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think more personality.
yeah. I think he was concerned when they said something about when she said something about this would be my first relationship. Like he had a reaction to that.
What do you think about her putting that in her vows?
I wouldn't have done it.
Me either. Okay.
I wouldn't have done it. No. You do have to play it smart. He's gonna find that out eventually anyway, but you haven't even had a one-on-one moment with him, and that's something that you're sharing. I wouldn't have done it. If I were
Hmm.
her, I would be concerned about his friends and family saying that he shows stubbornness and frustration. They tried to clean it up. They were like, well, yeah, his stubbornness and frustration, but you can tell that he just really cares. I'm like, no, 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 go back to the frustration part.
How
Take
does he show it?
exactly.
And he already said, like, oh, well, the New Yorker comes out of me. Why is
And
that
those
it sounds like a
two,
threat.
it does sound like a threat. It's funny that you asked me because my last note is literally I wouldn't have said my first time being in a relationship. So we're definitely on the same page with that.
Yeah.
Those are our first impressions. I think we'll wait for the weddings to give our predictions on who will say yes on decision day and who won't.
Hmm.
But that's what we have for the first episode of this season. Guys, make sure you check out our podcast episodes. We do have a new one coming out tomorrow morning. So make sure you check that out and all other podcast episodes that we have on here, as well as our Am I the A-hole reaction videos. And we'll see y'all next week.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.